Actually, the natural time machine. My work, of course, I wanted to have something that you could do in the laboratory and some sort of mechanism that you could control. And the key was Einstein's theory, once again, but using the aspect of it that I mentioned, that light can create gravity. But now you can actually see the root of my breakthrough. Okay?
All right.
Follow me. That is to say, if gravity can affect time and light can create gravity, then light can what? Light can affect time.
Right.
So my breakthrough was to realize that by manipulating light, I could actually manipulate time. And we have, in our time, one of the most amazing light sources that we can manipulate, and that's a laser. Okay, and it turns out that by using laser light, I was able to show that it's possible to control time in such a way that not only could we use time to go into the future, but we could actually use light to control time so that we can go back into the past. And this going into the future just has to do with the fact that the intensity of light will create, the stronger the light is, the more gravity there'll be. That will actually slow time down. That would allow you to go to the future. In order to go back into the past, you have to do something a little bit more than just simply use the intensity of light. You actually have to change the configuration of light. What I mean by that is the fact that you actually have to cause light to move around in a loop. And there's a number of different ways that you can do that. As to say that you can bounce light off of mirrors, you can send light through special crystals, you can have these optical fibers that are part of our communication system. You can put a fiber optic in a loop. You can have the light go into a loop. So there's a number of different ways you can get light to move around in a loop. But it turns out that getting light to move around into a loop can actually cause time to don't move around in a loop.
Is time run much like a tape recorder or a video recorder, where every event that's been done is just still out there?
Well, not quite. I mean, the thing is that in a sense, for example, when you're traveling into the future really doesn't happen. What happens is that because of the fact that you're traveling so fast, you disconnect from everyone else in the normal flow of things. And it's like you are moving downstream, so that when you connect with what's happening in the future, and likewise, going into the past, the thing is that you need something that separates, that actually, in a way, one of the analogies of the universe, you actually have to have something that sort of isolates this time is flowing so that you can go back. Time would actually allow you to, in a sense, disconnect yourself from this flow so that you can go back along the back of the street to the past. There's actually an analogy. Think about how one can actually flip time and space. If you have to do both. In order to travel back to the past, you actually have to twist both space and time. In Einstein's theory, you can't have one without the other. The two have to happen together. And the analogy that I like to think of is, remember I was saying that you think of gravity is actually kind of like a medium. So if you think of, well, let's use a simple example, a cup of coffee. Okay? And think of the coffee and this cup as being like empty space. So if you have a cup of coffee in front of you, think of that coffee as being like empty space. And then think of your spoon. Take a spoon. And think of that spoon as being like circulating light beams. Okay? So what happens if I take the spoon and stir the coffee? The coffee starts swirling around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's what the circulating light beams do. That is to say, if you take a laser beam, because the laser beam to move around in a loop, it will actually cause a twisting of that space. Now, you might say, oh, you can't see it because, I'm twisting empty space. So let's go back to the coffee. suppose you take the sugar cube and drop it into the coffee. Then as you use the spoon to stir the coffee's going to start dragging the sugar cube around, right? So you could know that the motion of you could actually see the motion of the coffee by just looking at the sugar cube that's being dragged around. Well, in the case of the empty space, suppose you put a little particle, subatomic particle like a neutron, into the space. Then as you take the spoon and stir the empty space, even though you can't see the space moving, the space will drag the neutron around. So by having a circulating light beam and looking in the region that the light beam is circulating, it will actually stir the space, and the space will drag the neutron around. So you'll see the neutron sort of all of a sudden start, dragging around. So you'll know that the empty space is being twisted. Now, in Einstein's theory, once again, space and time are linked to each other. That's why it's called space-time. And so whatever you do in space also happens in time. If you bend space, you bend time. That slows time down. If you twist space, then eventually, if you're twisting strong enough, you can actually twist time. Normally, even though we're unconscious of it, all of us are moving along a timeline from the past to the present to the future. We're just moving along this straight line of time. But if I twist space, I can twist this line of time into a loop. I think I could actually connect the past to the future. I could actually twist time into a loop. So that if I twist time, I can actually move from the past to the present to the future. But I've made time into a loop, so I can go from the future back into the past.
If you were going to go back to see your father, which is your quest, how would you be able to time it to that time period you want to go back to?
That's the key. I would have to, and that's actually part of the limitation of trying to do it this particular way, too, because if you turn the machine on, that's when it actually, in a sense, starts. Suppose I have the device and I turn it on today. Then time starts getting twisted, say, beginning today.
Right.
Let's suppose that I leave the device on for 10 years, and I have to leave it on for 10 years. 10 years from now, someone could travel back 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, all the way back up to the time the device was turned on. They can stop at any one of those points by going away from the light. But they can't go earlier than when the device is on. So I could actually calculate 10 years from now, I could actually calculate how I want to travel along these loops in time.
Would you see the time changing right in front of your eyes, like the movie, The Time Travel, Time Machine?
What it would be to you is you were moving around in space. Okay, it would be people who were outside would actually see you just sort of disappearing if you went to the past.
Okay.
And for you, it would appear as though you were moving around in space. And you would actually calculate how far you moved around in space, and that would actually be equivalent to how far you moved back into time.
I mean, to find your father, would you have to physically set up shop by your old house, for example? Would you have to be in that vicinity?
No, I wouldn't be anywhere, but I would just have to travel back to that point. I mean, I would say that where you turn on the machine, it doesn't matter. When you get back to the past, you can just travel in ordinary state to get back. I mean, in other words, the laboratory could be happening at the University of Connecticut, for example, that I could do it. But then I would have to travel back. Once I get to the time that I want, then I would have to go by whatever means.
Would this be a physical transformation on your behalf, or would it be in your mind?
Well, it would be physical. It would actually be, you would actually be traveling back to the past, to the real past. Now, here's the thing. You would have a memory of what the future is like. But once you've traveled back into the past, by the very point at which you get back to the past, you will have altered the possible future. So you would have almost a schizophrenic sense of things, because you would have a memory of things that might not happen because you have altered the past. And so even though, you would tell people, well, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, that may not happen because once you come back to the past and alter the past, even just the slightest thing that you do can send a ripple effect.
Even